The couple's reportedly planning to sell up and move to Malibu, although unconfirmed, it's unclear if they need to downsize to free up some cash, or they just desire a change of scenery for their family of 4.
And this is what I find interesting about Harry and Meghan that run a foundation, that they are required, this is what someone wrote, and this is true, that they are required to donate a minimum of 5% of their funds annually, yet Archewell barely meets this threshold, with the bulk of their money seemingly allocated towards operational costs.
Harry and Meghan, they love a private jet, live in a mansion, but they aren't as rich as most of their neighbours. Can we go through the maths on that?
It was only a matter of time before the questions turned serious. For years, Meghan and Harry have flaunted a lifestyle that just doesn't match the story they sold us. Multi-million-dollar Montecito mansion, designer clothes every time they step outside, private jets like Ubers, and security that costs more than most people make in a year. And yet, didn't they say they were broke? Remember the Oprah interview? They claimed they were cut off. No royal funds. Meghan said she had to call up old friends just to keep going. At that time, people felt sorry for them. But now, the sympathy's wearing thin. And behind the scenes, it's sounding less like a struggle and more like a setup. We are talking about quiet investigations, missing tax filings, shady charity funds. And now, there's real talk that the couple could be facing serious financial scrutiny. Some sources are even saying federal investigators are already looking into how they've been moving their money. Because the truth is, the math isn't mathing. Netflix deals that underperformed, a podcast that got canceled, no clear business ventures bringing in the kind of cash needed to fund this kind of luxury. And when money looks that good on paper but messy behind the curtain, that's when the feds get interested. This isn't just gossip anymore. It might be the beginning of something way bigger. So after they left the royal family, the narrative was tight. 2 brave individuals walking away from a centuries-old institution, choosing peace, privacy, and purpose over pomp and privilege. And for a minute, it actually felt kinda inspiring, like here were 2 people risking everything for love and freedom. But it didn't take long for that story to start shifting. Because they didn't just survive, they thrived and fast within months. Literal months, there were Netflix mega deals, Spotify exclusives, book contracts, 6-figure speaking engagements. Harry's memoir, Spare, is selling like royal hotcakes. Meghan's podcast, even if short-lived, served as a platform for truth-telling and healing. But behind all the press releases and curated photo shoots, people started asking the same uncomfortable question. Does all this add up? And the answer? Well, let's just say, it's complicated. Because money can come quickly when you've got name recognition, a tragic backstory, and a decent PR team. But here's where things get murky. Actual financial experts, government auditors, and legal insiders are starting to dig deeper. Not because they hate Meghan and Harry, but because the money trail is messy. Now, the same couple who once claimed they were cut off by the royal family, who got sympathy for leaving it all behind to start fresh in the US, are now quietly bleeding cash while maintaining a luxury lifestyle that just doesn't align with their public narrative. We're talking about a Montecito mansion with a $14 million price tag, private jet trips, a security detail that could rival presidential coverage, and wardrobes pulled straight from a Vogue editorial.
Prince Harry takes security of his loved ones very seriously and pays for around-the-clock bodyguards, thought to cost millions of dollars a year. His lengthy legal battles against a number of UK newspaper groups and indeed the British government over its decision to take away his security is also not cheap.
And yet, according to Shooter Scoop, at least 4 key players have walked out of Archewell. Not just assistants or junior staffers either. Kyle Boulia, their US Deputy Press Secretary, and Charlie Gibson, their longtime UK media liaison. Both reportedly gone. The other 2? Allegedly didn't wait to be restructured. They left before the house of cards started collapsing. A source close to the situation didn't mince words. These layoffs aren't strategy. They're for survival. Survival. That word hits differently when you're looking at people who were once seen as global power players. The source continued, they don't have the money to keep the team they built. They tried to recreate the royal court, but California doesn't do crowns on credit. It gets worse. Whispers are now turning into real questions about where their money's going and, more importantly, where it's coming from. You get the pictures, right? This is where the feds might possibly come in. We are talking about shell companies, offshore accounts, creative tax strategies. All alleged, of course. But when both UK and US agencies are rumored to be sniffing around, that's not just idle gossip. That's a flashing red light. The Archewell Foundation has already raised eyebrows over questionable transparency, late filings, discrepancies, donations that don't quite align with output. One source even hinted that Harry and Meghan may have been blending personal and professional finances in ways that could cause major legal headaches down the line.
And this is what I find interesting about Harry and Meghan that run a foundation, that they are required, this is what someone wrote, and this is true, that they are required to donate a minimum of 5% of their funds annually, yet Archewell barely meets this threshold, with the bulk of their money seemingly allocated towards operational costs. And you know, I think that shows you how they are trying to make money off of their charity. They're not really out there to do the most good. They're out there to enrich themselves. And the fact that they have had their charity registered in Delaware, where the laws would benefit more the people who run the charity rather than the people that they're trying to support.
And once the IRS starts paying attention, it's not long before federal investigators follow. And all of this? It's happening as Meghan tries to re-enter the public space with a new Instagram, a lifestyle brand, and oddly timed content like a video of her and Harry dancing in the delivery room. Yes, you heard that right, dancing in the delivery room. Posted right around the time layoffs and financial rumors were hitting the press.
Way too low. I tell the DJ turn it off.
If she your baby mama,
Go ahead.
she gon' do that baby mama.
Work.
She gon' put it on you.
Uh-huh.
She gon' do that baby mama. Drop it,
Drop
drop
it
it,
down,
drop it.
down, low.
Drop it,
Drop it down,
drop it,
down, low.
drop it,
Drop it down, low. Do the baby mama when I step out on the top.
Now, for those who did not see the video, it's basically Meghan showing off her suspicious-looking baby bump, and let's just not everyone be happy about it. Like, a lot of people started calling her out for pulling such a stunt. It feels off, like a distraction tactic. Because let's be real, no one posts spicy food didn't work, so we dance to get labor going when their empire is crumbling behind the scenes, unless they're trying to shift the narrative. Fast. And here's what's even more telling. Multiple sources say more layoffs are coming, the foundation is shrinking, the team is crumbling, and behind closed doors, the panic is allegedly real. One insider summed it up best: they need a major win fast. But with Netflix not renewing their content, Spotify shutting the door, and Hollywood insiders growing wary of overexposure, that win might not be coming.
It's not looking good for Harry and Meghan. That home in Montecito is about to be repossessed. Netflix is reportedly absolutely rattled by all the behaviour of Meghan and Harry. Now, their documentary has been postponed for release till 2023. Yet again. This is like, I can't keep track of how many postponings there has been. What's even more dodgy to me is the Netflix exec has come out and said that there were no plans in the first place for a documentary featuring Harry and Meghan, which really alludes to the fact that it's been cancelled.
So now the question isn't just, how are they affording this lifestyle? It's what happens if they can't anymore. Because the lifestyle they're trying to keep up isn't just expensive, it's suspicious. And when you're flashing wealth with no visible income stream while quietly firing your staff and ducking tax rumors, that's not just PR trouble. That's the kind of financial mess that gets flagged in government databases. No charges, no arrests, yet. But if even half these whispers are true, this royal escape story could end not with a crown, but with a court date. But wait. There's more, because most fans got so invested about this matter that some of them were even able to break down the number and the possible reasons why this ex-royal couple is drowning with a list of expenses they cannot pay. Like, a little too specific, in fact. Now, security for a high-profile couple like this? We're talking millions per year. Private schools for their kids, luxury real estate, fashion, travel, it all stacks up.
Channel 5 investigation as to the state of the Sussex's finances. Now, we know they didn't move to a two-bedroom cottage somewhere in the middle of nowhere. They're living in quite a large mansion in Montecito. And one of the things that Prince Harry made very public when he left the royal family, one of the things that he was quite disgruntled about was the fact that his father basically cut him off financially. So really, they were in a state where they had to make a lot of money and a lot of money fast. He blundered in a video and said, you know, the Netflix deal was an idea that was pitched to him, and he had to basically pay for his family's security, which I'm sure if you're giving the Sussexes 100 million.
And yeah, a Netflix deal can bring in a lot. But that kind of spending, that kind of consistency, it requires more than a docuseries and a memoir. It suggests layers of revenue, and not all of them may be above board. And that's the thing. The red flags, they're not coming from jealous tabloids or salty royalists anymore. They're coming from people with access, financial lawyers, tax regulators, people who follow money for a living. And then there's the branding, the "we were victims" arc that's been stretched across every single project. Meghan's truth, Harry's trauma, their royal exile. Their pain has become a product, and whether that was intentional or not, it's become the foundation of their entire empire. However, most people, and by people I am talking about those residing in the UK, are not buying this branding. In fact, they continue to call out Meghan for allegedly being too audacious to still pretend she is a victim. Speaking of their exile, we can't forget about the security guard drama. This might be one of the reasons why their finances also started to crumble. So here's what went down. Prince Harry just lost a major legal fight to have his UK security reinstated. That's right, no more taxpayer-funded protection for the prince-turned-podcast guest. But instead of backing down quietly, Harry issued a public statement that read more like a veiled warning than a reaction. He took direct aim at the Executive Committee for the Protection of Royalty and Public Figures, aka RAVEC. According to Harry, this so-called committee not only ignored their own safety protocols, but he claims they actively worked against him. And get this, he says senior royals had a seat at the decision-making table, meaning the very family he left may have helped strip him of protection in the first place. And that's not even the juiciest part. Harry went on to say this wasn't just a recent issue. Apparently, all the way back in 2017, before Meghan even married into the family, the committee had already decided she wouldn't receive full protection. It wasn't until Harry pushed back that they changed course. But now he's hinting at names, people involved in the original decisions who, conveniently, retired immediately after playing their part. That language? It's calculated. It's loaded.
5 years later, every single visit that I do back to the UK has to go through the royal household. The result to that is you lose your security. That basically says that you can't live outside of their control if you want to be safe.
And it makes you wonder, what else was decided behind closed doors? But let's zoom out for a second, because this isn't just about losing security. This is about what happens when you don't have that protection, and you're still living like you do. Hiring private security teams in California doesn't come cheap. We're talking about tens of thousands of dollars a month. That's before the mansion bills, designer clothes, and staff salaries. So if Harry's not getting protection from the UK and their US brand deals are drying up, how exactly are they footing the bill? Some insiders are connecting the dots. Without UK state protection, Harry and Meghan had to scramble to fund their own safety. And that pressure may have driven them to take whatever deals they could find. Spotify, Netflix, even controversial speaking gigs. And when those deals don't last, you're left with an image to maintain and a security cost you can't cut. That's why Harry's statement reads like more than just frustration. It sounds like a man under pressure, not just to defend his family, but to keep their entire world from financially falling apart. But it looks like it's not only Meghan and Harry who's struggling financially. It turns out Meghan's very own father, Thomas Markle Sr., is facing some serious hardships of his own, which only adds another layer to this pretty intriguing story. For those who don't know, in early 2025, Thomas Markle Sr. made a bold decision. He packed up and moved to the Philippines, specifically Cebu, alongside his son, Thomas Jr. Now, when most people think of moving to a tropical island, they're picturing sunsets and fresh mangoes. But Thomas? He walked straight into a storm of struggles, and this wasn't your average retire and chill situation. He's currently living in a high-rise apartment that costs about $670 a month.
Meghan Markle's father and half-brother have quietly moved to Cebu for a fresh start. Photos circulating online show Thomas Markle Jr. in comfortable clothes, holding hands with an unidentified woman outside their new apartment. British tabloids say he and their father, Thomas Markle Sr., recently moved into a £500 a month high-rise flat that's around 37,000 pesos after relocating from Mexico. Markle Sr. was also seen outside the supermarket near their building. The woman's identity is unknown and no statement has been issued by the family. The move comes after a long-standing rift with Meghan, whose father missed her wedding and has publicly criticized her in the past.
Not outrageous by Western standards, sure, but for an elderly man with no visible income stream and recovering from a stroke, that's a huge ask. And let's not forget, Cebu isn't exactly a gentle breeze. We're talking heat levels dancing between 80 and 100 degrees Fahrenheit, with 90% humidity like clockwork. Thomas relies on a cane to walk, and the cracked sidewalks and relentless heat aren't doing him any favors. Local media even caught him sitting outside a supermarket recently, looking noticeably frail and worn down. This is a man who used to work in Hollywood as a lighting director, used to big productions and steady income. Now, he's just trying to get by hundreds of miles from the glitz and apparently far from any real support system. So why'd he make the move? According to him, he wanted to escape all the awful drama that's been clouding his life for years. He said he felt stuck in a rut and needed a fresh start, but that fresh start is looking more like a sunburned struggle. The Philippines might be beautiful, but when you're 80, post-stroke, and estranged from your daughter, who happens to be married to a literal prince, it doesn't exactly scream paradise. And yep, you heard that right, estranged. Thomas hasn't spoken to Meghan since 2018. That's 7 whole years. He's never even met his grandkids, Archie and Lilibet. Imagine having royal blood grandkids you've never laid eyes on. Back in 2023, Thomas was out here making what he called deathbed pleas, asking Meghan to reconnect. But still, radio silence. In a recent interview, Thomas said, "I am ready for a change. I want to meet new people and experience kindness. Every day I see something about Meghan. I wish her no ill will. My dream is that one day I could bring my whole family together, like a normal family." It's heartbreaking, honestly. But even with those words out there, the royal door seems very much locked. So while Meghan and Harry are out here catching heat for private jet rides and Netflix deals gone dry, Meghan's dad is just trying to beat the heat, literally, while navigating life in a foreign country with a shaky health situation and no real lifeline. It kinda makes you wonder, was this overseas move the peaceful escape Thomas imagined? Or just a last-ditch effort to feel some kind of freedom before time runs out? Either way, it paints a whole different picture of the Markle family saga, one that's far less royal and way more real. Now here's the twist. When your brand is built on being hurt, on being silenced, on being shut out, you have to maintain that narrative, even if the truth behind the scenes is completely different. Because if the money doesn't come from struggle but strategy, if the pain is packaging, then everything starts to unravel. And that's exactly why investigators are circling now. They're not just asking, how much did you make from Spotify? They're asking, where did that money go? What account did it enter? What was reported? What wasn't? Because when you say you've been financially abandoned and then buy a $14 million estate, people start asking questions. And those questions are growing louder. Now let's talk about the charities, because where there's royal drama, there's usually some money trail involved too. I mean, there's almost always a charity involved. Meghan Markle and Prince Harry's philanthropic ventures are currently facing some scrutiny, and while no formal allegations have been made, the spotlight is definitely heating up. Charitable foundations walk a very thin line when they intersect with high-profile personal brands, especially ones as globally recognized as Harry and Meghan. When big names and big money come together under the banner of doing good, regulators tend to keep a close eye. Every donation, every grant, and every expenditure has to be meticulously recorded and made transparent, not just to the public, but to the law. Take the Archewell Foundation, for instance. We've mentioned about it earlier in the video, but here's a more deeper dive at its significance in this royal mess. In case you miss it, this is Meghan and Harry's signature nonprofit, launched in 2020 after they exited their royal roles and headed off to carve out an independent life in the United States. The goal? Support causes close to their hearts: mental health, community upliftment, digital responsibility, and more. But recently, the foundation found itself in hot water.
There's been leaked financial details from the Archewell Foundation that's quite fascinating because it shows that there's 2 donors who've given one of them 15 million and one 3 million. There's been speculation whether or not that 50 million came from Oprah Winfrey in return for that big television exclusive that the couple did with her. But it's fascinating that these records also show that their ability to raise money from the public seems very small, only about $5,000.
According to California's Department of Justice, the Archewell Foundation was declared delinquent after failing to submit its annual registration renewal fees on time. This wasn't just a clerical hiccup. This kind of oversight can come with serious legal implications. A letter from the Registry of Charities and Fundraisers, acting on behalf of California Attorney General Rob Bonta, made it crystal clear: an organization listed as delinquent is not considered in good standing. What does that mean in plain English? It means they weren't allowed to raise or distribute any charitable funds until the matter was resolved. In essence, they were temporarily blocked from operating as a legitimate nonprofit. Thankfully for Harry and Meghan, the issue has since been rectified. The fees were paid, and the foundation was brought back into compliance. But the incident raised eyebrows and questions. How could such a well-funded and high-profile organization drop the ball on something as basic as paperwork? Was it just an innocent administrative error? Or is this a symptom of deeper mismanagement? Critics argue that when philanthropy mixes with celebrity, the line between altruism and self-promotion can start to blur. And when you're a former royal with a Netflix deal, a Spotify contract, and millions in personal revenue streams, even your charitable efforts aren't immune to skepticism. The Archewell episode, while seemingly minor, serves as a reminder that nonprofit status comes with serious responsibilities. Even the slightest misstep can damage credibility, not just of the organization itself, but of the public figures behind it. And that's why watchdogs and government officials continue to monitor organizations like Archewell. Because at the end of the day, charity isn't just about good intentions. It's about trust, transparency, and accountability. Because if even 1 cent meant for a cause ends up in a luxury purchase or PR stunt, that's not just bad optics. That's financial misconduct. Now, who's running their financial team? That's another layer, because no one moves that kind of money without help. The question is, are those people PR experts or are they financial operatives? Are they building a legal, sustainable business? Or are they gaming the system? Because if this ends up in court, it won't be Meghan and Harry standing alone. It'll be their whole team under fire. And this isn't about whether they deserve success. It's about whether that success was earned the way they claimed. If you're going to build an empire on transparency, you have to actually be transparent. Right now, every new deal looks less like strategy and more like desperation. Meghan's rumored fashion lines, her possible beauty brand, cooking shows, wellness blogs, it's starting to look chaotic. Like someone who knows the clock is ticking and the story is wearing thin. Because let's be real, the world can only handle so many exclusive reveals about Meghan's private thoughts or Harry's therapy sessions. That material has an expiration date. And the more they lean into monetizing trauma, the more the audience begins to question what's real and what's just content. And Harry? His transformation has been something else. He started as the emotionally raw veteran bearing his soul, but now it's lawsuits, contradictions, and messy press moments. Even his biggest supporters are asking, what happened to the guy we rooted for? Especially after Spare, when timelines didn't match, when claims were challenged, when the royal family's silence felt strategic. Because sometimes silence isn't just avoidance, it's preparation. Legal experts now say that if this goes sideways, it could blow wide open. Not just financially, but legally. Misrepresentation, contract breaches, misuse of charitable funds. reputation-based lawsuits, all on the table. All is being whispered about behind closed doors by people who know what those kinds of cases look like. And if subpoenas get issued, if depositions happen, there's no more spin, no more control, just raw, unfiltered paper trails. And unlike press statements, paper trails don't lie. And here's the part that stings the most for some fans. It's not about whether Meghan and Harry were wronged. Most people believe they were in some way. It's about whether they took that pain and used it not to build something honest, but something manipulative, something exploitative, something designed not to heal, but to monetize. That's the real question people are whispering. Is this a love story or a business strategy? Are they freedom fighters or brand architects? And how long can they keep this machine running before it collapses under its own contradictions? Because here's the thing, narratives can make you famous, but numbers will always tell the truth. And if that truth comes out in court instead of on camera, no Netflix doc, no Vogue shoot, no podcast interview will be able to save them. Stay tuned. This story is just getting started. Also, make sure to leave a like and comment down below what you guys think because there's going to be so much more in the coming days.